So, happy 2025. Happy New Year, everybody. You made it to church. Good job. Oh, and so in case you haven't decided on your New Year's resolutions, I thought we'd start by I'd offer you a few options, okay? Are you ready for this? So some resolutions, because now's the time of resolutions. Some you might want to consider. Number 1, limit yourself to 2 minutes to pick a Netflix movie. If it's good, you'll feel like you've uncovered a gem. If it's bad, you'll be asleep in no time. Number 2, take more days off. It's a no-brainer, right? Number 3, use the phrase, it's a no-brainer, more often. Number 4, live your best life and only buy pants with no buttons or zippers. I can get on board with this. Number 5, sign up for a marathon that you bravely will not run. 6, go vegan for 6 months and give up after 6 hours. I went 2 months last year, confession. 7, remember to make overnight oats the night before, even though you know you won't want to eat them in the morning. Number 8, wear less Spanx. Ladies, are you with me? Or number 9, wear more Spanx. Could go either way. 10, manage to go the entire year without accidentally telling someone random on the phone, love you, as the call ends. Have you ever done that? It's embarrassing. Watch every single minute of Star Wars content on Disney+. That should take you right through the summer. 12, buy a chaise lounge. Honey, chaise lounge. Be okay with having to make more than one trip from the car to bring in groceries. The human arm can only hold so much. Not true. Oh, okay, that might be yours, Justin. Read more, or at least turn the subtitles on while watching TV. See how many times you can press an elevator. Oh, this one's for my nephew. See how many times you can press an elevator door button before it opens. Then continually try to beat your record. And finally, discover once and for all why it takes 3 attempts to plug in a USB cable. Do you have that problem? I have that problem. So we're beginning a brand new year, and I have a question for you to ask yourself. Am I living the life I most deeply desire? That's why we make resolutions, right? It's not to be silly. It's because this time of year we look at our lives and we think, that's not quite what I want my life to look like. The most common resolutions right now involve our physical fitness, and the gyms are full this week. I have a Saturday morning workout class, and it was packed. I was like, oh, must be January. But then by February, we're back to fat pants and Fritos. I'm telling you. The trouble is that resolutions don't stick. Willpower isn't the power that we need. What we really need is to build rhythms and not resolutions. You see, resolutions are about behavior modification, whereas rhythms are about our lifestyle. Resolutions are restricting, whereas rhythms free us to live the life we want. Resolutions are pass-fail. You either did it or you didn't. Rhythms are practiced one day at a time. Hence our series, Practicing the Way. This is based on a book by John Mark Comer. It is so good. If you want more depth than what we can give you in 4 sermons, I encourage you to get this book, Practicing the Way. It's so good. There is a way of life that Jesus models for us and calls us to. Jesus says, come follow me. What will our response be? Let's look at Matthew chapter 4. This is our text for today, starting in verse 18. One day, as Jesus was walking along the shore of the Sea of Galilee, he saw 2 brothers, Simon, also called Peter, and Andrew, throwing a net into the water, for they fished for a living. Jesus called out to them, come, follow me, and I will show you how to fish for people." And they left their nets at once and followed him. When Jesus said, "Come follow me," he was inviting Simon and Andrew to become his disciples. So, what's a disciple? In order to really understand what a disciple is, we need to understand the Jewish educational system of Jesus' time. See, when a child was young, in elementary school age, they went to Bet Sefer, it's called. It means the house of the book. And in that time, they would memorize the Torah, which is the first 5 books of the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament. It's the first 5 books of our Bible too, called the Torah. Then, if they might just go home and start farming, or they might continue on into what's called Bet Midrash, the house of learning. And that's like the high school, the upper school, secondary schools. And by age 17, they would have memorized the entire Hebrew scriptures. That is the entire Old Testament they would have memorized. They did not have smartphones, so they had more time, I think. Then most people stopped there. But if you were the best of the best, you might find a rabbi or a teacher who is willing to take you on as a talmid, which is the Hebrew word translated disciple in the scriptures. But the word disciple really isn't used outside the church in our day. So what is a disciple? What does that mean? Talmid means a student of a teacher or philosopher. And another way to understand Talmid is an apprentice. So the definition of a disciple is an apprentice under a rabbi, which means teacher or master. For us, the question is not, am I a disciple? But it's more, who or what am I a disciple of? Who or what do you look to as a master? If we are not intentionally being formed by Jesus, we are likely being unintentionally formed by something else. I'm going to say that again. If we are not intentionally being formed by Jesus, we are likely being unintentionally formed by something else. So, how can we be a disciple of Jesus? Let's go back to that system in Jesus' day. If you were fortunate enough to become a disciple of a rabbi in Jesus' day, your entire life would focus on 3 things. The 3 goals of an apprentice. Number 1, be with the rabbi. Number 2, be like the rabbi. And number 3, do what the rabbi does. As you would follow your rabbi, day in and day out, these 3 things would be your focus. That is being a disciple. So I want to address today 2 common misunderstandings of what it means to be a disciple for us. The first is this: being a disciple is different from being a Christian. In the New Testament, the word Christian is used 3 times. 3. The word disciple is used 269 times. That's a big difference. Jesus did not call Christians. He called disciples. Christian was actually started as kind of a way of putting down the followers of Jesus. And then eventually they took that on as an identity. Christian, it means little Christ. That's a good thing. But being a disciple is different from being a Christian. John Mark Comer says, "To many in the West, a Christian is just someone who mentally ascribes to the bare bones of Christianity and may or may not occasionally attend church." know a lot of Christians. I know fewer disciples. In all 4 of the Gospels, the writers make a contrast between Jesus' disciples and the crowds. Jesus' disciples are not just limited to the 12 that we think about, but in Luke 10, he sends out the 72, and throughout the Gospels, we see many more people who are intimately following him as disciples. But we also hear of this ambiguous group called the crowds that followed him. The crowds showed up wherever Jesus was because of his great teaching and his miracles. He was a spectacle to be seen. Or maybe they just had nothing better to do. They wanted to see and hear things that amazed them. And Jesus is amazing. But the disciples were not just there when it was convenient. They were his friends and constant companions. They arranged their lives around being with him. And he shared things with them that the crowds could not understand. I want to challenge you to consider, are you a face in the crowd or an apprentice of Jesus? Now, the second common misunderstanding I want to address about being a disciple is this. A disciple is a noun and not a verb. You can't disciple someone, just like you can't follower someone. You can't Christian someone. You can't student someone. Sometimes you hear someone ask, how are you being discipled? Or someone might say, my pastor isn't discipling me. Or I'm not being discipled enough at my church. But the problem with that is it puts the responsibility on the teacher. Being a disciple or an apprentice of Jesus is our responsibility. We are responsible to arrange our lives in a way where we are being with Jesus, we are becoming like Jesus, so that we can do what Jesus did. Jesus says, come follow me. It is the disciples' job to do the following. My brother Phil is not just an amazing drummer up here every Sunday morning, but he is also a master electrician. And I am so proud of all of his hard work. But he did not start as a master. He started as an apprentice. So I called Phil this week and just wanted to pick his brain about what it means to be an apprentice. He has experienced the apprentice side of things, and now he is the master who is pouring into apprentices. So here are a few nuggets of wisdom that I gleaned from him. So what makes a good apprentice? I asked him, what makes a good apprentice? And he said, I asked him if he wanted to preach today, but he declined. So I'm just going to tell you what he said. He said, a good apprentice, what makes a good apprentice is being passionate about what we're doing. Someone who wants to be there and wants to be better and learn everything that there is to learn. It is much better than someone who's just putting in time looking for a paycheck. Someone who understands the position and is ready to take the opportunity in front of them. What sets a good apprentice apart is, and he brought up a phrase that we both have heard from our father since we were born, a good helper is always one step ahead of the boss, right? But what that means is we're doing what we're supposed to do. We're doing what we're supposed to be doing and also watching and learning from the example so that when that situation, whatever situation we're in with our master, comes up again, we are there and we are ready. We know the tools, we know the materials, we are aware of what's going on, and we're there. The goal is to learn so you don't have to learn the same thing over and over again. I have parts of my life that I have to learn over and over again. Oh, I need more of that apprentice mindset, I think. So then I asked him, what is the most annoying thing an apprentice could do? And he sent me this meme. Is it there? Boom. When I die, I want my apprentice to lower me into the ground so he can let me down one more time. But seriously, Phil said the most annoying thing is if an apprentice is not taking it seriously or not caring. The master is trying to teach you and make you better. That's the reason that the position of apprentice exists. So you can learn from someone who has the experience and wants to teach you in real life situations. Then I asked, what's the difference between being an apprentice versus having a regular job? And this is the answer. Becoming an apprentice is a decision to be something, rather than just learning to do something. This is my trade. This is who I am going to be. They're not just teaching you about it, they're teaching you to be it. Masters are investing in you. You're not just an employee. And I wondered, have you ever had the mindset that you feel like an employee of God? Like God saved you, so now you have to work and work and work to be perfect in order to earn your reward. This is not how it is. God loves you and wants to invest in you and empower you to live the life he's calling you to and what he's calling you to be. One last thought from Phil on apprenticeship is this. As an apprentice, you are allowed to make mistakes. In fact, it's almost even encouraged because you are helped through the process of making mistakes. It's part of your education to learn through the mistakes. There is more grace as an apprentice than perhaps in another job. These are great insights from practical everyday situations that Phil lives out every day. Just like being an apprentice to an electrician, Jesus invites us to be his apprentice in this life. And he is the master, and he calls you and me to follow him. Are you ready to become his apprentice? Dallas Willard said, "There is no problem in human life that apprenticeship to Jesus cannot solve." And I would agree. With Jesus, we may not be wiring some fancy electrical in a mansion, which Phil has told me is pretty fun, but we are rewiring our brains and connecting our hearts to the creator of the universe through becoming an apprentice of Jesus. Pastor Cataline just shared in a video this week that our theme for the church for this year is Best Year Ever. And he said if we want this to be our best year ever, we need to make it our best spiritual year ever. Let's look at Matthew 6:33. But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. When Jesus said this, it was in the context of saying, don't worry what you're going to eat. Don't worry what you're going to wear. God knows, but seek his kingdom first, and this others will be added. The things that weigh on you, he knows, but he wants you to seek him first because he has the answers. And as we seek God first, it will become our best spiritual year. It will become the best year ever. We seek God's kingdom first by being with Jesus, by becoming like him, and by doing what Jesus did. And I don't know about you, but I am pretty far from looking like Jesus in many areas of my life. But I believe he is leading us as a church all into a new level of apprenticeship to him. John Mark Comer, last quote from him today. Transformation is possible if we are willing to arrange our lives around the practices, rhythms, and truths that Jesus himself did, which will open our lives to God's power to change. This is what I want for us in this year and every year. I want transformation. I need transformation. I know you need transformation, right? Right. I mean, you might be perfect. I don't know. I haven't met a perfect person yet. Oh, as we enter these 21 days of prayer starting tomorrow, I just want to invite you to pause and evaluate where your life with Jesus is at. And allow the Lord to help you start arranging your life around being with him, being like him, and doing what he does. And I just want to recap the ways to become a part of the 21 days of prayer. Pastor Cataline mentioned it earlier, but that card, be sure to take it with you. Be sure to go on the website. That Bible reading plan where we are going to read a devotional and some scriptures each day together. And then the last part of that, there is a place where you can comment or share. What is God showing you through these scriptures? Or questions you might have, or we get to share with one another, and then we can go back and read everybody's comments and be encouraged by one another. That times of corporate prayer, Tuesday night prayer, is beautiful. I mean, we are praying for you, and we are praying for others that we know and love and meet throughout the week that need God. We are praying for this church that we would do what we're supposed to do to bring God's kingdom here. We are praying, and the same with the Sunday huddle time. Just come a little early and have a part of some very powerful prayer moments right here before the service. The other thing I wanted to mention is about fasting. There's lots of different ways to fast. And the reason that we fast is you're going to remember it now. The reason is as we deny ourselves something that our body wants or our mind wants, it makes space for us to want God more. So whether it's a certain kind of food, or maybe you fast one meal, or maybe you fast a day, or maybe several days. Maybe you fast social media. I always fast social media during those 21 days because our brains are so wired for that. And I just need my brain to go to Jesus first before whoever posted whatever. There are so many different ways, but fasting kind of supercharges your prayer. So I want to encourage you, and there are resources on the 21 Days of Prayer page from that link to learn more about fasting and different types of fasts. And finally, I just want to encourage you, there is an app called Pray First. It's from Church of the Highlands, and it is amazing. It has guided prayers where it leads you through a time of praying through the Lord's Prayer, or the prayer of Jabez, or the tabernacle prayer in like 20 minutes with this beautiful music behind. Like it's heaven. And then there are lots of other prayer resources there. Plus, they are doing 21 days of prayer starting tomorrow as well. And every morning on the Pray First app, they have a prayer service that you can listen to as you drive to work, as you're getting ready. It's at 6 a.m., but it has a replay all day, because I know you're not getting up at 6 a.m. to do this, are you? Next year, we'll do it. Anyhow, you might be a morning person, and I love that. Not me. Not you. Anyhow, so the Pray First app. I just wanted to take some time to just really encourage you in these 21 days. However you feel led by the Lord, do it. And you don't have to do it perfectly. We are creating rhythms, not resolutions. So, life as an apprentice to Jesus is not easy. That's why we need help. But it is full and it is good. And by practicing the way of Jesus, we can make 2025 our best year ever. So are you ready for that? Let's stand up together. We're going to worship a little bit more. We're going to just make sure to take some time to let our hearts settle, to let our hearts, just like we sang earlier, I will make room for you. And we have to make room in our busyness, in our anxiety, in our all the things. You have to create room intentionally. The thing about being apprenticed to Jesus is that he doesn't leave you out there on your own. An apprentice is with the master. God sent the Holy Spirit to be with us every step of the way and empower us to be with Jesus, to be like Jesus, and to do what Jesus did. So as we worship together, we're going to ask the Holy Spirit to empower us as we take steps to follow Jesus more fully. When Jesus said, "Come follow," it says Simon and Andrew immediately left their nets and followed him. Like, that was a big deal. Immediately. They didn't even have to think about it. What? And part of it was very rare for a rabbi to invite a fisherman to be his disciple. But that's the difference between Jesus and everybody else. Jesus says, whoever hears me and obeys my word. Whoever. Not just if you memorize the entire Old Testament. Whoever. And he's saying to you and to me, come, follow me, follow me. In a new way, come follow me. In this deeper way, come follow me. He says that to all of us. Let's just take this next song and just let it sink in and decide in your heart, I'm going to take this seriously this year. I am going to follow. I'm going to follow.